Yo, what is up guys? It's Pedro here, and in today's video, we'll be talking about the Washington Commanders playoff path, what they have to do to make it, what they can do to get the 6th seed or maybe even win the division. It's going to be very, very hard, but there's still a small chance. We'll get into that and a lot more. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe. Trying to hit 15K by the end of the year. Got about a week. It's going to be really, really tough, but I know we can do it if all y'all who are watching right now are subscribed. Also, make sure to check out BetUS. And yeah, I know some people have been talking about the intro saying, yo, what is up, guys? I'm keeping that. I'm sorry. It's been a thing for a while. I know some people don't like it, but I know a lot of people that do. But let's get right into the video. So the Washington Commanders improved their chances of making the playoffs drastically by beating the Eagles, and they gave themselves a chance also to get the 6th seed, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But let's first talk about what they have to do to just get in the playoffs. If they win another game, they're in. They are in the playoffs. So if they beat the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday Night Football, they are in. If they beat the Dallas Cowboys on the next weekend, on Sunday, the times could still change, I believe, because the last week of the season is kind of crazy. They kind of wait until everything's situated to choose the times just so that scenarios aren't decided before, some games happen. It's just the way it works. But the Commanders, if they win that game, they're in as well. So that's really what matters. If the Commanders win another game, they're making the playoffs, and they should win another game. They're going to be favored in both games. And yeah, that's the simple thing. Just win. They also can clinch without even playing before they even play their Sunday Night Football game. The Bucks play in the 1 p.m. window. If the Bucks lose to the Carolina Panthers, which is very possible, then the Commanders would clinch as well. So we're big Panthers fans going into this weekend. I believe the Panthers also play the Falcons the last week of the season. So if they win any of their last two games, I believe then the Commanders would make the playoffs. So if they either beat the Bucks or the Falcons here, they'll be in a good spot because that last team wouldn't be able to make the wild card. The Seahawks are kind of out of it too because of what they've done. And if the Rams beat them, they're really out of it. The Commanders also have tiebreakers over the Seahawks, so that's something to watch out for. We don't have a tiebreaker over the Bucks, but again, if the Bucks lose to the Panthers, then the Commanders are locked into the playoffs. And if the Falcons lose another game, which either to the Commanders or to the Panthers the last week of the season, they are out. So that's just kind of how it all works. So that is the playoff scenario for the Commanders. Very basic. If they win, they're in. That's all that matters. That's all that you can ask for. We don't have any BS going on that we have to, let's wait and see. This team needs to win. This team needs to lose, blah, blah, blah. We do have some of that in terms of, okay, do we get the 6th seed or win the division? But that's, less important than just getting in the playoffs. That's what really matters. To win the division, it's going to be very, very hard, almost impossible. I'll pull it up here. Sorry about that. I'll pull it up here, but it's going to be very, very hard for the Commanders to win the division. So them winning against the Eagles obviously help because it gets the Eagles a loss, the Commanders a win, and makes things a little bit closer. But for the Eagles to miss the playoffs, miss the first place in the NFC East, the division winner, they have to lose both of their games, and the Commanders have to win both of their remaining games. And that's possible that the Commanders win both of their games. That's probably what's going to happen unless they rest a lot of players, but I don't think they're going to do that just because of the seeding implications, whether it's the division or the 6th seed that is in play. But the Eagles, I could see them losing to the Cowboys for sure. That's a possibility. But the Giants, I don't know. It's a divisional game. Anything can happen, but I don't know, man. I don't think that's going to happen. And I saw Adam Schefter say something about maybe the Eagles resting their players and stuff like that to get the Giants to get the first pick. If the division's in play, obviously they're not doing that. They're going to win against the Giants. Very small chance the Commanders win the division. I would say like a 2-3% chance. If they would have beaten the Cowboys earlier on in the year, and yeah, then it would be a much different story. They would already be in the playoffs. But hey, They didn't. That's a bunch of ifs. And yeah, the Cowboys though, they've been a hot streak. They could beat the Eagles for sure. You just got to win this week against the Falcons because I don't want to go into the last week of the season against a solid Cowboys team and be forced to win or you don't get in. I don't love that scenario. And is it at it's away. It's an away game too, so that makes things a little bit more difficult as well. Real quick, a word from today's sponsor, BetUS. Make sure you guys check them out. Use my code YouTube150 for 150% first time deposit match on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Like I've been talking about, the Commanders play the Falcons, a huge game at home, Sunday Night Football. The whole country, whole world, some of the world is going to see it as well. And the Commanders are 4-point favorites on BetUS, and the over-under is 47 flat. So they don't think there's going to be a lot. I mean, actually, that's a kind of a high line compared to the. It is a high line compared to the other games besides like there's a couple. So it's a decent line. They think, some scoring's going to happen. So excited for that. The Commanders, again, it's a huge game. If they win that, they're in and still have a chance to win the division. Very small chance, but there is a chance. But we're, Cowboys fans this week and then Giants fans the next week after that. But yeah, make sure you guys check out BetUS. Use that code YouTube150, and as usual, bet responsibly. So yeah, we talked about what the Commanders need to do. So any Tampa Bay loss or I guess tie is good for them. The Commanders with a win or tie also get a playoff berth. So a tie, I guess, isn't bad as well. But let's just win, man. Let's just win. If you're gonna make the playoffs, you're gonna have to be playing tough teams, and you can't squeak. I mean, you can squeak by, but you're not gonna be able to. If you're barely beating the Bucks or the Falcons, or not the Bucks, but if you're barely beating the Falcons or losing to the Cowboys twice in a season, you're not going to be able to beat a team in the playoffs unless something crazy happens, which, hey, a lot of crazy things have happened this year. 6th seed is still very possible. So the Commanders do have the tiebreaker over the Green Bay Packers, and that's a big deal. The 6th seed is a big deal. Instead of playing the Eagles, you play. It depends on how things shake out, but you might play the Rams or you might play the winner of the NFC South, which could be the Falcons or it could be the Bucks. And I'm with that. Well, let's run that. Let's run it back. Whether it's with the Bucks we lost to week 1 or the Falcons we're playing this coming Sunday. The Packers right now, they are a game ahead of the Washington Commanders. Let me go ahead and pull it up right here. So they're a game ahead of the Commanders. Again, though, we do have the tiebreaker over them. It's crazy. They have 11 wins and they're in 3rd place in their division. But you look at their schedule and they do play the Vikings this week, which is going to be a tough game at Minnesota. I don't know who's going to win. I would say it's close to 50-50. Either team could win this one for sure. But if they lose that game and the Commanders win out, then the Commanders would be in over them in terms of the 6th seed. So, first let's worry about getting in. But after that, if the Commanders win the next 2 games, which would be crazy, they would be at 12-5 on the year, then they would probably get the 6th seed as long as the Packers lose one of their next 2, which is very, very possible against the Vikings. And the Bears, it's probably not going to happen, but you never know. It's a divisional game. So one of the 2, that's all we need from the Packers. Just lose one of those games, and the Commanders are golden as long as they win out, which is still not going to be easy. The Falcons aren't a bad team, and the Cowboys are not a bad team right now. They're rolling. They have a good little win streak going on. So that's kind of the Commanders' whole playoff scenario. So 1 is they win the division, and yeah, then that's amazing. But that's the smallest likelihood of happening out of all the scenarios. Number 2 is they win out. The Packers lose to the Vikings. They get the 6th seed. That's the second best scenario. Then the most likely probably scenario is they win one of the next 2, maybe 2 out of the next 2, but the Packers win 2 out of the next 2, and they get the 7th seed. They probably play the Eagles the first week of the playoffs. And then the last scenario is they lose out and the Falcons win out and the Bucks win out, or yeah, they win out as well. If that happens, then the Washington Commanders are eliminated from the playoffs, and yeah, that's not ideal. So hopefully that doesn't have to happen, and the Commanders win against the Falcons, and we don't have to worry about anything else. It would be great to go into that game. I'm kind of like torn because one side of me wants to go into that Falcons game. We already made the playoffs, but then the other side, it's like, all right, if we clinch the playoffs right before the game starts, we clinch the playoff berth. Are the Commanders going to come out flat? Is it going to affect the way they play against the Falcons? Because you still want to win that game. You still want to get that 6th seed, and you want to be strong going into the playoffs. So that's just kind of how I feel in that situation. I don't know. Just my thoughts on it. I'm torn. I mean, obviously, I want to get in the playoffs, but you don't want the team to go, flat into the game. And I don't think they will, but you never know. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Make sure you guys check out BetUS, subscribe. Please, please, please subscribe. Trying to hit 15K by the end of the year. And peace.